The back chamber of Carver's tavern reeked of rum, sweat, and dread. Anna's wrists were bound with rough hemp, the strands biting deep into her flesh. Rose crouched near her, smaller, younger, trembling so hard she could hardly catch her breath. Carver loomed over them, a cruel grin curling across his face. Maddox leaned against the wall, twirling a dagger, his smirk wide and eager. Two men, two shadows, no way out. "You can't pay me in silver," Carver growled. "Then you pay me in skin." Anna's heartbeat thundered against her ribs. Her mouth was parched. Her lips were split from the slap he had already delivered. She caught Rose's terrified eyes, wide, wet, begging without words. Her sister was only 21, far too young to endure such horror. Carver jerked Anna up by the arm, his breath hot against her cheek. "You or her, your choice." His hand traced the rope on Rose's arm. Rose whimpered, the sound shattering Anna's resolve. Anna shut her eyes. Shame pressed heavy on her chest. Her voice escaped, trembling, broken. "I'll take it off. Just let her go." Her words hung heavy in the room. She wasn't unclothed, not yet, but inside she was already broken. She had traded her pride, her body, to protect the last bit of family she had. Rose cried out, straining against the ropes, her voice raw, desperate. "Please, mister, don't let him, please." That cry cracked something deep inside Jonah. It was like thunder rolling through his chest. In one smooth motion, his revolver cleared the holster, gleaming under the flickering lamplight. The hammer pulled back with a sound louder than any gunshot. Maddox froze, dagger half raised. Carver's grin faltered, his eyes twitching with sudden fear. Nobody in the room doubted Jonah Kane meant every ounce of that cold stare. "Untie them." Jonah's voice was low, steady, carrying more weight than any shout. It wasn't a request. It was law. For a heartbeat, Carver hesitated, his eyes darting between Jonah's gun and Anna's trembling body. For the first time, his confidence cracked. People in town still whispered about Jonah Kane, the old soldier who never missed, and Carver was no fool. With a curse, he yanked the rope loose. Maddox stepped back, his knife clattering to the floor. Anna stumbled forward, her knees weak, pulling Rose into her arms. They clung to each other, shaking, tears streaking their dirt-stained faces. For the first time that night, they felt a sliver of hope. Jonah kept his revolver steady. He knew better to lower it too soon. Men like Carver only respected the hard edge of steel. Finally, he spoke again, his tone colder than ice. "Get out, both of you." Carver spat on the floor, humiliated, but he backed towards the door. Maddox followed, his eyes burning with hate. Before leaving, Carver hissed, "This ain't finished. You'll pay for this, old man." The door slammed shut, echoing like a warning. Silence flooded the room once more.
Anna turned to Jonah, her voice breaking. Why would you help us? You don't even know us." Jonah slid his revolver back into its holster, his eyes heavy with memories too painful to share. Instead, he muttered, "Because someone should have helped my daughter, and no one did." Anna blinked, lost for words. Rose clung tighter to her, whispering through tears, "Are we safe now?" Jonah's gaze hardened, fixed on the door where Carver had vanished. Safe? Not even close. Carver is a coward, but a coward with power. Men like that don't let go. The night outside the tavern was heavy with silence. The sisters held on to each other as if letting go meant falling back into hell. Jonah walked beside them, boots crunching against the dirt, eyes scanning every shadow. At the edge of town, his old horse waited, tied to a post. He lifted Rose up first, her small frame shivering in the cool air. Then Anna climbed on, her voice trembling. "You didn't have to save us. Now Carver will come for you, too." Jonah gave a small shake of his head. "I've had worse men than Carver come for me. I'm still standing." It was true. His voice carried the weight of years, scars of a man who had survived too many storms. But deep inside, he knew this storm wasn't over. When they reached his ranch, the place looked worn, tired, but it was shelter. A lantern glowed faint on the porch, throwing long shadows across the yard. Jonah led them inside. He poured water into tin cups and set out bread from the cupboard. The sisters ate in silence, too hungry to speak. Jonah sat across from them, watching, remembering nights when his own daughter had sat in that very chair. The memory cut deep, but his face stayed carved from stone. At last, Anna broke the silence. "What will happen when Carver comes back?" Jonah leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. "He will. He's too proud to let this go. But when he does, he'll find he's not the only one ready." Rose shifted nervously, clutching her tin cup. "You mean you'll fight them? You're just one man." Jonah let out a dry chuckle, more gravel than laugh. "One man with a steady hand and a clear conscience, that can be enough." The sisters glanced at each other. For the first time since that night began, a flicker of trust passed between them. The wind rattled the shutters. A coyote cried out in the distance. The world felt like it was holding its breath. Anna lowered her voice. "Why us, Jonah? You don't know us. Why risk everything?" Jonah stared into the lantern flame, the words heavy on his tongue. "Because too many times I stayed quiet, and the people I loved paid the price. Not again." The room fell still, the kind of silence that lingers inside you long after the words fade. Morning came with a sharp chill. The sisters barely slept, their eyes heavy with fear. Jonah was already outside feeding his horse, moving slow and steady, like the world hadn't tilted the night before. Anna stepped onto the porch, shawl tight around her shoulders. "You really think Carver will come today?"
Jonah glanced at her, unreadable. Carver's the kind of man who doesn't like being shamed. Men like him always come back. Rose appeared, clutching a tin cup of coffee too big for her hands. What if he brings more men? What if he brings the law? Jonah's eyes shifted toward the fields. The law can be bent. Men like Deputy Crow have been in Carver's pocket for years. That makes them worse than outlaws. Later that morning, Jonah saddled his horse and rode into town. He left Anna and Rose at the ranch with strict words. Stay inside. Don't answer the door. If trouble comes, hide in the root cellar. The tavern buzzed when Jonah walked in.
Carver sat at a table with Maddox, and sure enough, Deputy Crow was there too. His badge caught the light, his smirk as crooked as his soul. "Well, well," Carver drawled, "the old rancher thinks he can play hero. Paid off my debt, did you? Think that makes those girls free?" The crowd went quiet. Jonah's voice cut sharp, calm. "They are free, and if you ever lay a hand on them again, you'll answer to me." Crow leaned back, tipping his hat with a sneer. "You talk big, Kane, but don't forget, I carry the law here. If Carver says those girls owe him, then they owe him. That's how it works." Jonah's eyes locked on Crow's. For a long breath, no one spoke. Then, slow and steady, "Not this time. Not while I'm breathing." The saloon stirred. Some nodded, some looked away, but everyone felt it. A storm was coming. Carver's grin sharpened. "Then we'll see who this town belongs to." And with that, the line was drawn. By noon, dust rose on the horizon, riders coming fast. Carver, Maddox, and Deputy Crow led them, faces set with arrogance, hands never far from their weapons. Jonah stood on his porch, rifle in hand, shoulders squared. Anna and Rose behind him, afraid but ready. Neighbors gathered, pulled by noise, by tension. Men and women who had suffered too long in silence. Carver shouted, calling Jonah a thief, a liar, a man who sheltered debt dodgers. Crow flashed his badge, claiming the law was on his side. But Jonah's voice carried over all of it. "You know the truth. You've seen the bruises. You know what kind of men these are. The law isn't a badge. The law is justice, and justice has been missing here too long." The crowd stirred. Anna stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. "We aren't the only ones they hurt. We're just the ones still standing." That was enough. One by one voices rose. The people found their courage. Carver's power cracked in the open daylight. Crow's smirk faded as the same people he had bullied now closed in, demanding real justice. By the end of that day, Carver and Maddox were bound with rope, marched off to face judgment beyond the town they once controlled. Crow was stripped of his badge, left to answer for his corruption. As dust settled, Jonah lowered his rifle, his chest heavy, but his eyes lighter than in years. Anna stood beside him, her hand brushing his. A silent promise, not just survival, but a future. And here's the truth, friends. One man may grow old, may carry scars, may think his best days are behind him. But when he chooses to stand, when he chooses what is right, he can still change everything. Courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about acting when fear is all you feel. So, let me ask you, if you were Jonah, would you have walked away or stood your ground? If you were Anna, would you have found the strength to speak when silence felt safer? These are questions worth carrying long after the story fades. If this tale moved you, if you believe more stories like this should be told, give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. Because the Wild West may be gone, but the lessons it left us are still alive.